The Wolf of Wall Street, Jordan Belfort, is in South Africa addressing the South African Success Summit in Sandton, Johannesburg. Jordan, why success and Jordan Belfort?
Well, part of it is certainly how to become successful in the wake of failure, but also how to become successful while maintaining ethics and integrity. And to me, that's a hugely important part of whenever I speak, whether it's in a huge summit like this, or I'm doing charity work where I do a lot of stuff in South Africa, in Deep Sloot or Alexandria, in terms of the mistakes that I made, which really was centered on that I thought that just making money was the goal of business versus really focused on giving value and maintaining ethics and integrity. And because of that, I lost everything. So it's important to me that as I speak, because from my perspective, making money is easy. I don't think it's hard to get rich if you're willing to work really hard and learn what you need to learn. But if you don't do it the right way, you try to cut corners like I did when I was young and I went, had instant gratification in my mind. I paid what was almost the ultimate price, and I'm fortunate to be able to bounce back and be able to deliver a message now that I think really is empowering to people, not just for the short term, but also for the long term.
Jordan, you described traveling to Czechoslovakia, for example, the little brown bag with opium, cocaine, uppers and downers. If you'd carried on living that lifestyle, would you be here?
Well, in truth, I got sober before I went to jail. So about a year and a half before I got sober. If I wouldn't have gotten sober, I certainly would not be alive, because I already had overdosed once and had numerous times that were close calls before that. But I think what jail did for me, it was, in retrospect, it was the best thing that ever happened to me, for sure, because it forced me to re-examine myself, my value systems, my beliefs. And then, of course, I wrote the book, or started writing the book, when I was in jail, so that changed everything. And I think without that, if I wouldn't have lost the money, yeah, maybe I would have, not had to go through all the hell that I went through, but I don't think I'd be 1/10 the human being I am today in terms of how I judge success now. Back then, I don't think I was successful. I was rich, but I wasn't successful. Now I look at myself as being a success because I try to leave everybody in a better spot than when I meet them. And I just didn't have that mindset back then. So,
has anything really changed in Wall Street since your day?
Yes and no. I mean, things have certainly gotten better than they were in the years that led up to the GFC. There was a wholesale betrayal of trust, and in many ways it was very much like what I was doing. It mirrored that almost exactly. Different security there. It was mortgages that were basically subpar. I was in subpar stocks that were risky stocks. And I think that when you look at what happened there, the magnification, because big firms, instead of having people that lost money, Iceland went bankrupt. In Greece, I mean, you saw countries getting decimated, right? And it almost teetered the whole world economy, or did teeter the world economy. I think things have gotten better since then. And I think that a lot of the bigger firms, I know like Goldman Sachs, I know a lot of people there. I know they've instituted changes in bonus structures and making sure that people don't get compensated for short-term trading strategies that yield profits today but don't pan out in 5 years from now, which is really what was at the heart of the problem. So I think that's gotten a bit better, but I think there's still that underlying festering sort of that hasn't been fully flushed out. Like, it's still there, but I think it's, at least cosmetically, it's gotten better, and hopefully in certain, and again, you can't say everywhere, but I know in certain places it has, and probably certain places it hasn't.
Greg Blank is a trader from South Africa who was sent to jail for insider trading. At the time, he said that he was a fall guy and that it was the culture of doing business. Do you feel that you've been picked on?
I deserved what I got. So I'm not upset, and I think that I deserve to go to jail. I deserve to pay the fine I paid, and I'm still paying it. I gave 100% of the book royalties, which will be tens of millions in the movie profits as well. So I don't feel that way. I feel that other people, certainly most people, were probably doing what I was doing, but that doesn't make it right. And the fact is that I was the biggest one doing it, and I deserve to get caught. So I understand his feelings. I don't say he's wrong, but I personally don't look to try to minimize my own actions, because I think that's what it kind of comes off that way. And in some way it is. I mean, yeah, other people do it, but it's wrong. I did it, and you do the crime, you deserve to do the time. So I don't look at it that way.
Another way to look at what you've done over time is to really just work hard.
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, in truth, 95% of my business was completely legal. So it wasn't, I did many things really well in terms of hard work, for sure. The sales system I developed was amazing. It's still used all over Wall Street and all the different industries today, and I teach it around the world. And the motivational stuff where I took kids that had limiting beliefs and they, were never told by their parents and their school teachers that they were worthy of greatness or capable of greatness or deserved to be great. And I intuitively was actually rewiring their beliefs and allowing them to really raise their standards and manage their emotional states. All this sort of stuff that we now talk about in terms of self-development. I was doing it intuitively at a young age, and the mistake I made is all that great stuff was poisoned by a lack of ethics and integrity. I'd be worth $10, $20 billion right now. One company I took public, Steve Madden Shoes, I owned, even after it went public and I was diluted, I owned 51% of. It's worth $3.5 billion right now. I was forced to give that up because of my lack of ethics, and I can go on and on in those situations. So the mistake I made is I didn't delay my gratification. I didn't understand that if you build a foundation on sand, and I think I understood it, but the instant gratification got the best of me. It was more powerful, and Gordon Gekko in my ear, greed is good, and all that sort of stuff back in the 80s. And now I know better. I know it's ambition that's good, not greed, and I understand that unless you go out into the business world and look at business as a way to deliver value, to essentially monetize value, any money you make is not going to last. So that's my goal when I speak here or anywhere, is to really share that message. Yeah, getting rich is great. I can show you many tools to do it, but if you don't do it the right way, it ain't going to last.
No, you're known as the Wolf of Wall Street, but you could also be called a leopard, in that you've changed your spots. Have you?
I don't think I've changed my spots because, this is the person that my parents sent out into the world. I come from a really good family that was raised right with values and to do the right thing, and I was a good kid growing up. I took a left turn at Albuquerque, as they say in the United States, somewhere in my mid-20s, and thankfully I'm back to the person that my parents sent out into the world, and I think that, everyone makes mistakes in their lives. I guess I've made some really big ones, but we're not the mistakes of our past, and I always say this publicly, we're the resources and capabilities that we glean from our mistakes. You're only your past if you choose to live in that. Every time you fail, you make a mistake, you become stronger, you learn from it, you build muscle. So I think that I'm equipped now to really go out at this point in my life and with all those learnings to be the best version of the person my parents originally sent out into the world. And that's my goal, and I strive to do that every single day, and I think I'm succeeding, or at least I'm trying to succeed, and that's the most you can ask of yourself, basically.
Well, Jordan, thanks very much for spending
my pleasure.
10 minutes chatting to us. Well, that was Jordan Belfort, the Wolf of Wall Street.